Welcome to episode 2 of the Mountain Mantras Wellness and Life Lessons podcast. Today we explore how to achieve optimal health through the 5 elements. You can check out the show notes at makewellnessfun.com. Click on podcast on the blue navigation bar. There you'll be able to access an awesome chart to help you understand more about the 5 elements. Now, on to the interview. My guest today is Dondi Dahlin. She is a published author, award-winning speaker, internationally acclaimed dancer, actress, and teacher. Holy cow. She wrote The Little Book of Energy Medicine with her mom, Donna Eden, and her newest book, I'm so excited to talk about, we're really going to focus on today. It's called The 5 Elements, and it will be hitting the shelves in September, although there's a couple of exciting things since we're in August that we can be talking about now. And Dondi says that the 5 elements can help you have a healthier relationship with yourself and others, and you can get along better with people, with yourselves, and you can be more successful in your work. You can be healthier. You can have a better career. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. So I'm so excited to get tips from Dondi about how we can all integrate the 5 elements into our lives. Welcome to the show, Dondi.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm calling you from Southern California, but I've actually spent time in Ketchum. I love Ketchum.
Didn't you say that you sang here?
I actually performed at the lodge in Sun Valley with with my sister years ago, about 10 years ago. We're dancers, and so we did a big dance show in the lodge, and it was beautiful. It was just fantastic. We loved the people of the area. I love the old buildings in Ketchum. Everything about it, we just soaked it up.
Okay, so having been to our beautiful, beautiful valley, you know that we are really into things like the 5 elements. But nonetheless, for those listeners that don't know what the 5 elements are, Dondi, would you walk through what they are?
Absolutely. So I'm going to try to say this in a nutshell and as simple as I can, because this is a simple system and it's also a profound system, and I get really excited about it. So I start going off on tangents, but Catherine, you can rein me back in. Basically, this system is a personality type system. It's also a health system, and it's over 2,000 years old. It is said that it's probably around 5,000 years old. It's from China, but it was first recorded in medical text 2,000 years ago. So those were the first real writings we had about it. And it's a system based on 5 elements. And the 5 elements are metaphors. They're taken from elements in nature and in our world. So the elements are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And Chinese scholars and doctors provided these metaphors and believed, and still believe in China and different parts of the world, that people fall into one of these elements in their life. And that can come when they're under stress, it can come when they're at work, it can come when they're with family. Now, ideally, we'd love to have all the elements dancing inside of us on a daily basis so we can be balanced in health and mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But what happens in life? We get off balance and we kind of default to one element and the vulnerabilities of that element. And the vulnerabilities can be physical, mental, emotional. So that is what it is in a nutshell, and I'd be really happy to go into each element a little bit, because I think your listeners can start to see patterns and start to have aha moments and say, oh, I think I'm a wood, or oh, that sounds like me, I think I'm a fire. So I'd be happy to go into each one if you'd like.
I would love that. And Dondi, bear with me, because what I try to do throughout the show is summarize just little statements. I call them mantras. And then I put them on the show notes so that people can go back and just quickly incorporate, practical, actionable items into their lives. So I'll just say that mantra number 1 is that some of the best medical or healing advice is thousands of years old, and it's about knowing yourself. And when I say knowing yourself, knowing what elements are stronger within you. So, Dondi, yes, let's go into the details so that listeners can start to say, oh, that sounds a little bit like me. And then, of course, we'll go into those vulnerabilities, and so people can be aware of how to have optimal health.
Excellent, excellent. So when people research the 5 elements, let's say you're just getting started in the 5 elements, you like the idea of them, so you go online and you type in the 5 elements. Usually what you will see is a wheel. The 5 elements are often represented in a wheel, and in that wheel we start with water. Water is the first element in the wheel, and we'll go all the way around the wheel. So if you are a strong water personality type, your archetype, you actually have 2 archetypes. You have the philosopher, the deep, profound thinker, the philosopher, and the baby, the cuddly, fun, sweet little baby who's very curious about life. And both of those archetypes can work together, or you can be a strong water just in one of those archetypes. And this is the only element that has 2 completely different archetypes, the philosopher and the baby. So let's talk about the philosopher a little bit. The philosopher type of person is very deep. They're your poets, your writers, your musicians, your philosophers, of course. People who are water types are very interested in deep conversation, complex musical scores. They're very creative. And one really telltale sign of a water, and see if this is you, for those of you listening, is that they aren't a hurried person. They don't have urgency in them. They're going to take their time. If you're a water, you'll take your time smelling the roses, so to speak, or walking outside in the rain. And you can get the reputation of being late because you aren't thinking of the clock. You are soaking up life and meaning. Meaning is very, very important to you. Life wouldn't be very profound for you if it wasn't about meaning. So you aren't a fluffy person. And the other archetype of water is the baby, curious and playful and fun. And so with each element, I'll briefly say that there are organs that element governs or is governed by. Now, when I say these organs, don't get scared. It doesn't mean you're going to have health problems with those organs, but it is interesting in Chinese medicine. If you go to a Chinese doctor and they figure out that you're a water type, for instance, they're going to look first at the kidneys and the bladder. Those are the organs for water, and they will go to kidneys and bladder and see what vulnerabilities might be there. Likewise, in Chinese medicine, everything is connected. Chinese medicine, which the 5 elements originated with, sees human beings as ecosystems. And so the mind is connected to the body, and the main emotion for a water person is fear. It means that they're scared. They're scared of success. They're scared of not being successful. They're scared to maybe take a big trip because they're scared of what might happen on that trip. And so they kind of lead with this emotion, and fear is connected to the kidneys and the bladder. So that's very briefly the water type, and there's so much more. I'm just going to really skim the surface so we can go all through all 5 of them. Are you ready for wood? Wood is next.
I love it, Dondi, and I'm going to just jump in really quick with 2 more mantras already. Mantra number 2 is that everything is connected. I think when you said that, I thought it was so powerful, and we have to keep that in mind as we listen and we start to understand ourselves and our family members and our loved ones and our people in our community. We're all different elements. We're all different pieces of elements, but we're all connected. And mantra number 3, I love that each element has an archetype, has an organ system, and an emotion. So I'm hoping that as we go through each of them, and I am ready for wood, and I hope the listeners are as well, that we can talk about those 3 aspects of each element.
Great. I will definitely do that. Thank you. So let's move on to wood, which is a very bold element. The archetype is the pioneer, or anything kind of related to the pioneer. That would be the warrior, the boss, the soldier. It's a very fearless, unlike water, woods are fearless. It's a fearless type of person. They lead with determination and will. They see the bigger picture. They find solutions. They are very good at getting things done. So if you are in a workplace and you're a boss in a workplace or a leader, and you have some employees who are maybe lagging behind a little bit, or they aren't turning their projects in on time, you may want to pair them with a wood, because a wood person is going to get it done. They are doers, and they take the great ideas of the water person, who was the first element. Waters have awesome ideas, but they have trouble with follow-through. Woods turn those ideas into action. They have incredible amounts of confidence, and they don't let anything stand in their way. Their main emotion, now I don't want to confuse anybody because anger is not so accepted here in the West, but their main emotion is anger. And in Chinese medicine, the Chinese see anger as a friend in need. So your friend is anger, and you need to work with that anger and comfort that anger and see what that anger needs. Does it need to be expressed? Does the anger need to be heard? Woods are very good at expressing their anger. They aren't a type of person who will stuff it down. The two organs that go along with anger and the wood element are the gallbladder and the liver. And it makes sense when you think of phrases like, that galls me. That just galls me. And the person is really angry who's saying it. Comes from the gallbladder. So the wood type of person is very bold. You know when they've walked into a room.
And I have read, the first book I read on the 5 elements, this was way before the current political campaign. I read that Hillary Clinton is wood. Do you believe that as well?
I do believe she has wood, so I'll say really fast that Hillary Clinton is a great combination of a few elements, and I'm just going to be really honest about Donald Trump. What I think is difficult for Donald is that he is so strong in wood that there's almost no other element for him to resource to. And ideally, we want to be balanced in our elements. So I'm a strong wood as well, but I also have learned to balance my water and balance my earth. Earth is compassion, and we'll get into that. And so I can pull on other elements. When somebody is so strong in one element like Donald Trump is, they can run into problems, not only emotionally and in the public eye, but also in a health aspect. And I believe Hillary Clinton also has some metal and some earth. If you hear her daughter and her husband speak about her, all they speak about is the earth, how she's such a great mom and how she helped her daughter Chelsea go off to college, and very, very much a caretaker, which we don't see so much in the public eye. But she definitely has some wood, definitely.
That is so interesting. And you mentioned, okay, so anger is the emotion and the organs are gallbladder and liver. But what is the archetype? So for water, it was philosopher and baby. For wood, what is sort of the one-word archetype?
So the one-word archetype for wood would be the pioneer. They go forward, they go to the edge of the cliff when no one else will, and they're always seeing into the future, what I can do, what can be done, where I can go, and they go there and they are on a mission. They are the pioneer. And they do it first before everybody else.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm ready for fire. Listeners, let's hear about it.
All right, so fire. Oh, my gosh, this is such a great element, and I don't have a lot of fire, so I'm always trying to balance my fire, and when I talk about it, you'll know why. People love fires. Their archetype is the wizard, or the life of the party, the comedian. A lot of comedians are fires. Ellen DeGeneres, Jim Carrey. But it's not just that a fire is funny, ha-ha, and they're going to stand around and make jokes. It's that they have sort of an innate joy that bubbles forth. And when everything else is serious and everybody else is talking about serious stuff, the fire person comes in and spins it into something positive. It's an amazing trait that the fire person has, and they're very good at pulling other people out of the doldrums. And I'll go back to waters for a moment, because waters are a complex element, so I like to refer back to them. Waters tend to get depressed. That's one of their vulnerabilities. A fire person, if you have a fire person around, call them up if you're a depressed water, because they will help get you out. We call them the wizard because they just spin the entire group of people or situation or city into magic. They're a very magical person. Their vulnerabilities are that they're so drawn to pleasure and joy and happiness that other people can see them as kind of flitty or non-committal. So that's one of the challenges being a fire person. They may be accused of not being committed to one person or not committed to one act or corporation or company, because they are drawn to joy. So wherever there is joy, they are going to go. And they get four organs in the body, actually 3 organs, and then one is an energy system, and I'll touch on that. They're the only element that gets 4. So they have small intestine, heart, the pericardium, and if you don't know what the pericardium is, it's the protective sac around the heart. And then they get something called the triple warmer. And the triple warmer is fascinating. It's an energy system in the body that's very much alive in the East and in China and in India. People don't know so much about it in the West, but it is the system that governs your fight, flight, or freeze. So it's a very important system, and the main emotion for fire really is joy, but when they are stressed, like when a wood is stressed, they'll go into anger. When a water is stressed, they'll go into fear. When a fire is stressed, they go into panic. And panic is very much about the triple warmer, the fight, flight, or freeze. So that's a little bit about the magic of the fire type.
Wow. Okay, so joy and panic when necessary. The wizard, the funny life of the party. Let's move on to Earth.
Okay, Earths are all about compassion, caretaking, and other people. They're always caretaking other people. They have a little bit of a hard time taking care of themselves. Their archetype is the preschool teacher, the mommy. They are all about service to others, helping others, making sure others feel safe and secure and content. And they are pulled down to their core to help others. So this is, you can't say about an Earth person, oh, they like to help others. No, this is deep. This is from deep in their body, where life just isn't even worth living unless they can help others. And that goes for animals too, other people or animals. And so the Earth person, their main emotion is compassion. That's what they lead with in every conversation. Their compassion comes out at work, at play, with their family. You can always hear them talking about their compassion for others. And their main organs are the stomach and the spleen. And I'll just say something interesting about the stomach and the spleen. The stomach and the spleen help us digest and metabolize. That's what we know here in the West. But in the East and in China, they don't look at it just as metabolizing food, how we do here, especially in America. Stomach and spleen metabolizes food and drink and drugs and anything else. in the East, they also metabolize emotions. And so if an earth gets really caught up in the emotions of other people, a Chinese doctor, for instance, would look to the stomach and the spleen as possibly being vulnerable. So that's your great earth.
Interesting. So the preschool teacher, full of compassion, love that. We need all of that in our world. But what about metal?
So metal, their archetype is the queen or the alchemist. They are a very reverent person. When they walk into a room, they almost glide in above the rest of us. Think of Angelina Jolie. She has a lot of metal in her. They weather life's ups and downs. They never get too ruffled about everything. Again, a lot of reverence. They meet life where it's at. They rise above it, and they slowly and beautifully move on. Their main organs are lungs and large intestine, and that's because a metal's journey is about letting go. And so when you study Chinese medicine, you understand that the lungs, every time you take an in-breath and an out-breath, it's letting go of the toxins. The colon, or large intestine, of course, is also about letting go. So those are their organs. Their main emotion is grief. And the grief comes in almost in a subconscious way because the metal element is the last element in the 5 elements wheel. And so subconsciously, because they're last, it's almost like they're always preparing to pass over, to go on to wherever we go to after this life here on Earth. I'm not saying it's a conscious thing, but in Chinese medicine, they see it as almost a theme in a metal's life. And that's where the grief comes in. What did I not do? What did I not finish up? What relationships did I not nurture before I die in this lifetime? So it's a very spiritual element, and a lot of metal people are often seeking a higher spiritual path. And those are the 5 elements.
So interesting. Okay, so for listeners, what I want you to do now is I'm going to go through the archetypes because I think that is probably the easiest thing for you to identify with. Then what we're going to do is, because Dondi's book is not available until next month, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is so cool. She was telling me before we got on the air that there are some gifts that she would love to give away, and so we'll talk about those. And, you know, Dondi, we're not even really going to take a break, but I'll reintroduce you. And then what I want to get into is, once we all have our identification in terms of where we think we are strongest, why don't we think about those things that maybe we're lacking? And so say, you know, we want to be stronger with water, or stronger with wood or fire or earth or metal. If we want to strengthen those parts of us, I would love to sort of go into our last half an hour or our final half an hour, kind of really getting into how to strengthen those elements. How does that sound as a plan?
That sounds great. I love it.
Okay, so let's start, because your book isn't available now, let's start with what you have sort of in the hopper as far as what you're doing now. I know you're giving away some gifts, and so let's point listeners in that direction. I'm sure they're intrigued. Oh, and by the way, before we do that, I'm going to just summarize. So water, you're the philosopher, you're the baby, you have the chill factor. Wood, you're the pioneer, you're the bold one. Fire, you're the wizard, you're the funny person in the life of the party. Earth, the preschool teacher, full of compassion. And metal, the queen or the alchemist. Think Angelina Jolie. So that, okay, I just wanted to kind of ground all our listeners so that they're thinking there, okay, where do we put ourselves? And so if I, you know, am sort of heavily into one element, then we'll kind of talk about how we can strengthen our other elements, because life is all about balance. Okay, so we're grounded there. I'm going to ID the station. You're listening to KDPI 88.5 FM Ketchum Community Radio. This is the Mountain Mantras Mix Show, and you can tell I'm so excited about what we're talking about. It's Catherine Kemp-Guiley, your host, and we have Dondi Dahlin on the show today. She is a published author, award-winning speaker, and internationally acclaimed dancer, actress, and teacher. And she's an expert on this incredible methodology for healing the 5 elements, has a new book coming up. And again, she's going to be talking about these giveaways, and then we're going to be talking about how we can strengthen those elements that might be out of balance in us. So, Dondi, I'll let you take it away with your gifts and places to point listeners.
Wonderful. So I think the easiest way for any of you out there who are listening is to send me an email. I'm going to say the email slowly. It's 5elementsgiveaway@hotmail.com. So elements has an S at the end of that word. 5elementsgiveaway@hotmail.com. And if you just send me a little email and tell me you heard me on Catherine's amazing show, I will fill you in on how you can get goodies and bonuses all related to the 5 elements, which is the book coming out.
Oh, that's so generous. And Dondi, do you spell out the word 5 or do you just put the number?
Oh, thank you. Good question. You spell out the word FIVE, 5 Elements Giveaway @hotmail.com, and then I'll send you a little email back. Give me a day or two because I am traveling on the road, but I will answer you and tell you how to take advantage of some really fun stuff.
Well, that is so generous of you, and you can really tell just, the way you come across with your voice and over the air that you're really you're out to help people and to help them find balance in their own lives, and that's where we're going to go into next, because I've already pegged myself, okay, and I've actually been told by acupuncturists, what elements are stronger in me and which ones are weaker. And so let's go through, starting with water, kind of in that same order of water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, how we can strengthen those elements in us if we think we need to. I can tell you I need to strengthen my water, so it's a good place to start.
Wonderful. So this is what I would like to do. I've heard you use the word balance 2 or 3 times now, and I use it a lot. We use it a lot in our work, and it's so important. And I'm going to talk in terms of balance. So for all of you listening, if you're out of balance, you're probably feeling a lot of fatigue. You're probably starting to snap at people. You probably don't have a lot of patience. You aren't your full, authentic, wonderful self that you could be, because for whatever reason, the stress in your life has made you off tilt. It's made you imbalanced. So I will go through each of these elements and talk about how we can bring balance into the elements, and that will in turn strengthen all your elements so you can dance with them. So the first one is water. Here's what water people really need, and this is important even for people who feel they don't have a lot of water, because for sure you have waters around you. And that's what the 5 elements is about. It's about understanding not only yourself but others and having compassion for somebody who may be falling into the pitfalls of their element. So if you are a water, remember you need downtime and don't feel guilty about it. You are a little different than the other elements. You run at a little bit slower of a pace. So I have this great friend who always says, and he's a water, he says, waters aren't the sports car, they're the really cool VW bus. So they might not win the race, but they're really awesome. That is the water, so give yourself downtime. You also need playtime. And you want to give yourself this time also to complete projects, and please be honest with people about the amount of time you need. Do not feel that you need to apologize for asking for a bit more time. If someone says, hey, can we meet this afternoon and talk about that project? And you're thinking, I need to think about that project first. I need to, sit down with my journal and in the darkness of my room, which waters often do, and really think about it. Say, you know what, I would like to do it tomorrow instead. Be really honest. So if you don't have a lot of water in your life, of course, this will help you understand waters around you instead of thinking, and I'll give an example. I have a few waters in my life. I actually joke around that at one time I used to attract very dysfunctional water men into my relationships, and I've stopped doing that because now I attract balanced water men. But I was always thinking, oh my gosh, why are they always late? Don't they respect me? They have no respect for me. They're always late. Now I can sum up a person immediately and know if they're water. And in my mind, I just give them more time. If I tell them to meet me at 2 o'clock, I pretty much know that they aren't going to be there till 2:15. And it helps me relax. The 5 elements take stress out of your life because you're able to predict people. So I'll move on to the next one. I know I tend to spend a lot of time with water.
Oh, no,
Catherine,
Dondi, do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Yes, jump in.
Okay,
please.
I've got to jump in with a mantra because I want to remind everybody about this whole idea of balance, meaning that you can be your full, authentic self. I think that is so powerful, Dondi. So I just wanted to outline that as mantra number 4. And I wanted to clarify. So say you're somebody like me that wants to strengthen your water, meaning like I was looking at some of the other elements and I identify more with those. And so I think that to be in balance, i.e. the full authentic version of myself, what I need to do is I need to give myself downtime and playtime. Did I hear that correctly?
Absolutely. And one of the quickest ways to strengthen your water is to get a good book and sit with it and read it. Even if it's a short one, it doesn't have to be a thick one. But reading brings up that deep meaning in a very water way.
Ooh, how about reading a book in a bathtub?
Yes, reading a book in a bathtub. Perfect. I love it.
Okay, all right, so we've nailed it. Let's go on to if we want to strengthen our wood. So we want to be more like a pioneer.
Okay, so the best way to balance wood, and I'm going to talk about this in a couple of different ways. When people want to have more wood in them, you know, you can't just say to yourself, I want to be more bold. I want to be fearless. It's very hard to talk yourself into a place that you aren't, if you aren't a person who is fearless. So get some woods in your life. Start making friends with people who you know are wood. And start really having a practice in your life that brings up courage, because woods are all about courage. So whether that's meditation or visualization or doing some things like skydiving or river rafting, that will definitely bring out your wood, because woods like to take risks. So that will bring out the wood. And the best way to balance wood, if you are a wood person, give people the benefit of the doubt and give them more time than what feels comfortable to you, because you are an urgent person. You want things done yesterday, but not everybody works that way. So remember, you are unique as a wood. You do things very quickly. Don't chop people out of your life just because maybe they aren't fast as you, and really stay away from the generalizations like, oh, that person is lazy or that person isn't loyal to me. You know, people show their loyalty in different ways. And to people around you, it looks like you have it all together. You are the person who it just goes through life and success comes to you. So when you don't have it all together, it's helpful for people to hear that. It makes them feel better about where they are in their lives, and it helps you to be in touch with your vulnerability. So there's some balance for the wood person and some ways to strengthen it.
Great. So whether you're just visualizing having more courage or you're actually going out and doing some thrill seeking, those are a couple of ways to strengthen your wood element. Okay, fire. How do we be the life of the party? Very funny.
So get out on that dance floor. Get out there. Don't sit in the corner when you're at the party. I have to force myself to do this. And usually I don't go out so much anymore because I have a 7-year-old. But when I was going out a lot, I was very shy. I have a lot of water as well as wood, but a lot of water. And I go into my shy place. And my sister is a fire. And pairing up with my sister was the best thing to do to get myself out, to get myself talking to people. Sometimes I could just tag along with her. She would start all the conversations, and she'd pull me onto the dance floor. Sometimes before going out, and this is a good way to strengthen your fire, turn on music in your house, some really energetic music that you love, and just start dancing around anything like Zumba, African dancing. These forms of movement that are very high energy will help strengthen your fire and balance your fire.
I love it. So music, dance, a little bit of fun, go along with another fire person, and that just, I think, will help us all, if we need a little fire in our lives, to get there. So that is excellent. Okay, so Earth, oh my gosh, this is, for those moms, you just said you have a 7-year-old, I have 2 children. We're very close in that regard, in that anatomically speaking, we are Earth, right? I mean, we've brought other life into this onto this planet, and I think also, I'm thinking about gardening and putting your hands into the actual earth and the dirt and weeding and things like that could strengthen. But you tell me, in your experience, what are some great ways? Maybe if you're not a mom, or you're not a parent, or you don't have a garden, how you can strengthen that earth element.
Excellent. Yes, I like to talk to the people who aren't a parent or even don't have animals, because people who do have animals, and this is a clue to strengthening your earth, they get in touch with that earth very quickly, taking care of a little doggy or a cat. Well, cats are kind of metal element. They're more on their own. They can take care of themselves. But owning a pet or having kids will definitely bring out your earth. But here's something else that will strengthen your earth. And it happened to me. I really wanted to strengthen my earth because I'm a strong wood, and I felt myself, this was 10, 15, 20 years ago, I felt myself going into judgmental places of other people, and this is a pitfall of woods. They're very good at seeing what's wrong. That's why they're so good at fixing things. But a problem is that they'll see what's wrong with people, and I was going into this. And then Hurricane Katrina happened, and I just knew immediately that if I went down and volunteered for Hurricane Katrina, I dropped everything and I flew down. I knew it would strengthen my earth. I knew I would help others. I knew it would be a win-win for all humanity that I touched. And it was. So I would say volunteering, giving to a charity, giving your time is going to really strengthen that earth in you and give you compassion for others.
I would not have guessed that, but I love that. I mean, as an executive director of a nonprofit myself, I believe that volunteering actually adds years to your life. And, folks like Andrew Weil and other doctors have talked about the health benefits of volunteering. So if you want to increase the strength of your earth element, it's about taking care of others, animals, plants, volunteering. It sounds like even practicing appreciation and compassion. You could, if you can't, fly down to a place that's been hit by a disaster. And by the way, thank you so much for doing that. But if for folks that can't do that, I mean, you can just send good thoughts, right? And I would think that would strengthen your earth element. I have a question though, and I've been hearing a lot about the power of grounding, and I mean actually taking off your shoes and standing with bare feet on the earth. Does that help with the earth element, or is that not related?
That does help. Grounding really helps. Earth people are very grounded. They are, if you're a strong earth person, you're the person who will come into chaos. So let's say there's chaos in a workplace and everyone's fighting and everyone's upset and there's rumors swirling. The earth person comes in and acts as the mediator, the placeholder. They hold the space of peace and compassion. So they're very grounded, and I highly recommend standing on grass. And if you don't have grass around you, you have plenty and catch them. But if you're in a big city, you can always bring a little square of sod into your house. And we do this in our work for our clients who live in big cities. They get a little square of sod from the gardener, and they stand on that. It also helps if you stand on rocks or pebbles, like smooth rocks from the beach, and we'll bring these into our home and stand on them, and it feels so good. So even if you're thinking, wow, this is a little woo-woo, I don't know about the grounding thing, do it anyway because it just feels good.
I have never heard about being able to stand on sod. I always thought it had something to do with the sort of magnetic pull of the earth. But what you're saying is that, that sod coming from earth has that earth energy in it. And so it's just going to transmit into your feet?
Yes, absolutely, because we're electromagnetic. And so that's why people can heal others with their hands, because their hands are electromagnetic, and the earth also is electromagnetic, and so we pull that energy up with the sod, even if it's not still outside in the park or on your front lawn. And, it may not work as good, but it's for those who can't get to any grass.
I love that, and I think it's so important for these healing techniques to be accessible to everyone. So thank you so much for bringing that up, that you might be in a crowded city or just not have access to fresh earth. So having some alternatives, I think, is fantastic. Okay, and we've gone through water, we've gone through wood, fire, earth, and I'll try to summarize some of these awesome recommendations in the show notes. But let's now talk about metal.
Yes, so metal. And I'm going to refer back to metal to remind people, when you're a strong metal, one of the vulnerabilities is to kind of isolate yourself, be on your own, and lose connection to people. What metals need to do is always remember to stay connected to other people. This is a big thing right now. Brené Brown, who is a wonderful author and speaker, talks about connection and how our brains are neurobiologically wired for connection. We need connection, but metals are people who often, especially if they're under stress, they think they don't need connection. They think they can just be on their own. So coming back, connecting to people, and also this will take you out of your head space, because metal people get very up into their head thinking, and they think in sort of linear ways. And so connecting with people brings back the color into life and the humor into life. Humor is great to strengthen your metal and to balance your metal. And feeling emotions is okay. Metals are also people who sometimes question high emotion. They'll analyze joy, or they'll analyze enthusiasm, or they'll analyze, why is someone crying? Because they're much more even-keeled than the rest of us. So to strengthen and balance your metal, just know crying is okay. Emotions are a good thing. So that's how we can balance the metal.
That's so helpful. So staying connected, and I'm going to go back to that in a second, but I'm just going to also summarize, getting out of your head. I will admit to listeners that, my acupuncturist and yoga teacher have told me I've got some strong metal elements in me, or that it runs strong in my constitution. And so one of the things that I use as a mantra for myself, and what my lovely yoga teacher, shout out to Sandy Hagel, who's also my acupuncturist, what she says is to find your feet, Catherine, find your feet. And Dondi, that is exactly what you were saying is the antidote to you kind of getting out of your head. But let me go back to this whole idea of staying connected, because it's interesting. I had another guest on the show prior, and we were talking about the new digital connectivity and all the benefits that it brings, but I was admitting my trepidation around social media, and does that mean connection, or is it meaningful connection? Dondi, what as a expert in health and understanding the importance of balance, for somebody like me that's metal and who needs to stay connected, is the digital way of being connected going to help?
Right. Good question. So every element is different. So I'm going to go back to waters for a moment, and then I'll come back to metals. For waters, any connection is good, because waters can also isolate deep within themselves. There's a little bit of a difference between the isolation of a metal and a water, though. Waters tend to go very, very into what is wrong. Everything is wrong. That person hasn't done this for me, and why didn't they do that for me, and why did my mom treat me that way? And then they'll beat themselves up. So when waters go there, even digital media can be good. Even a water popping onto Facebook and seeing their friends can be a good thing. And I know a couple of waters, I'll see their moods shift when we start having a great conversation on Facebook, and they'll say, "Oh, yay, thank you for, talking with me here because I was really getting blue this week." So digital media can be great for a water if they can find the true connection with people there. With metals, however, metals are already the metal element. They have a lot of metal elements, so going to a computer or an iPhone or a tablet may not be the best thing. They really need the human connection. They need to have the one-on-one, walking with a person on the beach or meeting a person at a nearby mountain and just having an hour of good conversation. That will really balance a metal. So I believe digital media can be really good for some of the elements and not so great for some of the others like metal. They need the humanity.
Oh, Dondi, you just told me what I intuitively knew to be true. I just struggle. You hear these stories of this and that and blah, 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 and you're missing out. It's, there's actually that whole fear of missing out thing. And, but I can see what you're saying, right? If you're already strong in that metal element, these devices, this wiring, all that, I mean, it's metal, right? It's just more
exactly. And you as a metal, people who are metals already have that complex wiring in their head. Their minds and their brains are like a computer. They often, not all metals, but a lot of metals think in terms of graphs versus colorful pictures. They see linear lines instead of curvy colors. And so it's already like they're a computer. Pull themselves away and get them in touch with humans. And I'm not saying this is easy. I know some metals, and they do not want to go to lunch at times. And sometimes they don't want to hook up with a person and go sit by a beautiful creek. They like to be alone, and they like to seek higher planes of spirituality. So metals are often meditating or praying. And they really do need the human touch.
Oh, it's so interesting. And so I'm going to summarize that discussion with a final mantra, number 5, which is that finding balance is not one size fits all. It's so great to keep that in mind, that what might work to balance one person is not going to balance another person. So thank you. Gosh, you could just see the 5 elements in practice helping a person, me, right here live on this show, so we can see that this actually works. So in the last about 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes that we have, Dondi, where should we take our listeners? What are some things that we haven't covered that you think would be of great value to them?
Well, thank you for saying that. I think I would like to say, in your relationships, and this is another big subject, but I'll touch on it briefly. In your relationships, if you're in a workplace, for example, let's take work, and there are some people that seem like really nice people. They do their work. They seem like perfectly good people, but you have no idea why they rub you the wrong way, and you may even feel guilty for that. You may walk around thinking, God, I just don't like that woman, and I don't know why, and I feel horrible for it. There are such things as flow cycles and control cycles with the elements, and very simply, if you're on someone's flow cycle, you're going to resonate with them, and it's easier to get along with them. If you are on their control cycle, they're going to push your buttons, or vice versa, you'll push theirs. And it's very, very interesting when you start delving into this, because this is it's kind of invisible, isn't it? It's energy. We go back to energy, which is in us. It's around us. It's around other people. Our energy affects other people. Their energy affects us. And so, very briefly, some of the elements that are on each other's flow cycle are water and wood, wood and fire, fire and earth. These people are they're just going to get along better, and sometimes there's no visible evidence for the reasons why they're getting along so well. And the control cycles, water controls fire, metal controls wood. I can speak about that as a wood person. I used to say to my sister when I started figuring out the elements when I was a teenager, I would say, before I knew about control cycles, I'd say, oh my God, it's just like metal women especially, but also metal men. It's like they don't like me. I don't have to say anything. I just walk into a room and it's like they don't like me. Well, little did I know there is an energy of a control cycle there, and woods often feel controlled by metals, even if metals don't say anything. And so once you delve into the 5 elements, you start looking at these control cycles and flow cycles. And it's awesome because I'll take my mom and her husband for example. They are on each other's control cycle, and they have one of the most beautiful relationships you'll ever witness. They've made it work. They've been together, I think, 38 or 39 years. And even being on each other's control cycle, because they know the 5 elements, they've been able to nurture each other and send each other the messages and the love that works for their elements. So it's a fantastic system. I just love it.
That is so cool because in a family you could have the spouses might be in alignment, right, and have this happy, cohesive relationship, but then kids, as much as we adore them, are probably going to be different elements. And so it's to our advantage as far as having this, happy, healthy home to understand our kids and their elements so that we can understand how to get along with them, so we can create more harmony. I think that's just such a great tool for not just for couples, but for families and for workplaces. I mean, this world is all connected, so it's just one relationship after the other, right?
Yes, it's an awesome tool for the workplace. It's an awesome tool for raising children. And my mom wrote the foreword to my book, The 5 Elements, and she talks about how different me and my sister were and how she raised us according to our elements and how much it helped our upbringing. My sister has a great afterword in the book about the 5 elements in children, and she writes it not only for parents but also for teachers and for caretakers. So it helps in all relationships. This isn't just about romantic love.
Well, you are amazing. You are basically on a mission. You're on a mission to make people aware of the 5 elements and know that there's an easy and fun resource to improve their relationships and empower their lives so they can be confident and happy and healthy. And your book is part of it. And we're all now at the edge of our seats, eagerly waiting it. It's the 5 elements. What else is going on with you? I know you're speaking or you're traveling. What else can we be looking out for you? You will be back in the area. Tell us more about what you've got up your sleeve.
Great, thank you. So I have a number of workshops coming up next year, but for this year, I will be in New York at Omega Institute, October 14th through the 16th, teaching the 5 elements and also Middle Eastern dance. And Omega is incredible. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. Omega Institute. It's like a summer camp for adults in the rolling hills of the Hudson Valley in upstate New York, so in the forest, not in the city. And then I did want to just say, for anybody who maybe is wondering what their element is, you can take a quiz on my site. It's there for you to take. It's learnthefiveenements.com. You could go take that quiz right now, and you'll be able to know your first element, your primary one, and your secondary one, and then you can read about it on the website.
Well, Dondi Dahlin, you are such a gem. Okay, so listeners, in case you missed it, what I will do is I will put them on the show notes. But if you want it right away, it's learnthefiveenements.com. That's Dondi's website. And Dondi, you gave out your email earlier in the show, and then you have a Facebook page. It looks like it's facebook.com/Dondi Dahlin fan page. So folks can visit you there. Any other places you would direct listeners to?
Those are the good places, and I'll repeat the email again so I can tell people how to get fun goodies. It's 5 Elements Giveaway at hotmail.com, and you spell out the word 5, and then I'll be in touch with you. And please do stay in touch with me on Facebook or on the webpage, on the website. I put a lot of resources on Facebook about the 5 elements and also energy medicine.
Okay, and even though I'm a little bit on the metal side, I will put a timer on my Facebook time. But I would love to check you out. I'm just in love with your work. It's been such a fun hour. It's gone so fast. I have pages of notes. And I think it's so cool, like, ooh, woo, woo. I'm a very woo-woo person, so it's great. We have our 5 mantras to go with the 5 elements, and I will also put that up on the show notes page. So you are listening to KDPI 88.5 FM Ketchum and the Mountain Mix Show, and that was Dondi Dahlin, and she has just shared an hour's worth of incredible wisdom, and also just so many ways that you can stay in touch with her for much, much more, including her upcoming book, The 5 Elements, which is just going to be, I think, a game changer for families, for couples, for folks in the workplace, for so many people. So we thank her for that. If you missed a little bit of the show and you're intrigued, don't worry. You can find a recording of this broadcast at makewellnessfun.com under podcast on the blue navigation bar. And I say at the end of every show, remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being informed and getting proactive while having fun. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much, Dondi, for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure. What a great show. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.